If you had a gun to your head and had to answer, what would you say is the best action movie franchise of this century? While John Wick is quickly climbing the ranks, and a real argument for the Fast and Furious movies can be made when it comes to jaw-dropping stunts and eye-popping set pieces that continue to get better each time out, it's hard to top what Tom Cruise has been able to achieve with the Mission Impossible franchise. Indeed, while early results from directors like Brian De Palma and John Woo might be varied, Tom Cruise has remained the one constant and has used his superstar wattage to help everyone from JJ Abrams to Brad Bird retain his own stamp while improving the overall quality of the franchise. With that in mind, the collaboration between Cruise and writer-director Christopher McQuarrie has catapulted the Mission Impossible franchise to a new level of dazzling entertainment and death-defying stunt work. Remember, Cruise and McQuarrie have remained simpatico since first working together on Valkyrie. Since then, McQuarrie has penned scripts for such popular Cruise vehicles as Jack Reacher, The Edge of Tomorrow, The Mummy, and Top Gun Maverick. In the interim, McQuarrie wrote and directed Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, Fallout, and of course, Dead Reckoning. Although the movie has proven to be a critical and commercial success thus far, a lot of the behind-the-scenes drama relating to COVID-19 inadvertently delayed the production, substantially ballooned the budget, and posed quite a legal risk for Paramount. Throw in controversy over the use of a historic Polish bridge for key stunts and a stunt that suffered an accidental fire, and the 7th MI may not seem so lucky after all. Stay tuned, we'll dig up and examine a lot more about the making of Dead Reckoning as we discover what the f happened to this movie. If you weren't already aware, Dead Reckoning was initially meant to be filmed in 2 parts back-to-back. McQuarrie signed on to write and direct the ambitious 2-parter back in January of 2019. As studios are prone to do, Paramount slated the first film to be released on July 23, 2020, and the second on August 5th of the next year. Alas, when the global pandemic caused by COVID-19 broke out in late 19 and early 20, Paramount's plans were abruptly dashed and contingency plans had to be organized. Therefore, the 2-part movie would not be filmed back-to-back. The viral outbreak would continue to affect the production of the movie in several ways, including casting decisions, crew members testing positive, temporary shutdowns, and more. But before we break all the legal drama down, it's worth noting that British actor Nicholas Hoult was originally cast to play the movie's primary villain, Gabriel. However, due to scheduling conflicts, Hoult was replaced by American actor Esai Morales, who happens to be 27 years older. Furthermore, in December 2020, Angela Bassett was initially cast in Dead Reckoning to reprise her role as CIA Director Erica Sloan from Fallout, but was removed from the ensemble due to COVID-19 safety travel restrictions. For his part, McQuarrie has assured fans that Bassett will return to the franchise at some point. While it's unfortunate Bassett didn't return, the recasting of Henry Czerny as the CIA director in the movie is quite inspiring. In Dead Reckoning, Czerny reprises his role as Eugene Kittredge for the first time since the first MI movie back in 1996, bringing the franchise around full circle in a way that could satisfy fans. Remember, Tom Cruise famously told Savannah Guthrie on the Today Show that Dead Reckoning Part 2 will be the final time he plays Ethan Hunt in the mainline MI movies. While it's unthinkable that Cruise is poised to end his run soon, McQuarrie told MovieWeb that the MI franchise will not end with Dead Reckoning 2. While promoting the film as late as July 2023, Cruise left the door open to continue his reign as Ethan Hunt. As for his role in Dead Reckoning Part 1, Kittredge repeats a line of dialogue from the first film when he says to Ethan, "I understand you're upset," making for a cool callback for the longest absent return character in the franchise. Of course, a major appeal of the MI movies is the expansive globetrotting and the worldly travels that Ethan and his IMF cohorts embark on throughout the movies. Alas, this presented a logistical nightmare for the production team on Dead Reckoning when the film was forced to be delayed due to the sudden COVID-19 outbreak. Because the movie was scheduled to shoot in multiple European countries, as well as parts in the Middle East for the Abu Dhabi airport scene and the Arabian desert sequence, the production had to overcome a slew of legal hurdles relating to various international policies. Dead Reckoning was the first Mission Impossible movie to be filmed entirely with digital cameras. Under the working title of Libra, Principal photography was set to commence in Venice on February 20th, 2020, the same day that northern Italy implemented its strict lockdown laws. The Venice shoot was scheduled for roughly 3 weeks before moving to Rome for an additional 40-day filming session. Unfortunately, due to Italy's stringent lockdown policy, production was delayed in the country for roughly 8 months when 12 crew members tested positive. For his part, Cruise personally bought a ship for a cost of £500,000 so the cast and crew could isolate themselves off the British coast during the shutdown. In the meantime, stunt rehearsals on the movie were slated to commence in Surrey, England 3 weeks after production was halted in Italy. On July 6, 2020, the production was granted permission by the British government to start filming without the 14-day quarantine mandate. To keep things as contained as possible, the set was constructed on a Warner Brothers studio backlot in Leavesden, Hertfordshire. In August 2020, production was also given leeway to begin filming the intense motorcycle jump in Norway, also without the 2-week quarantine. Just as filming got underway in Norway, a massive fire erupted on a motorcycle stunt being filmed in Oxfordshire, England. The stunt took 6 weeks to prepare and is considered the most expensive ever filmed in the UK. Fortunately, nobody was injured. Despite the creative liberties given to McQuarrie and crew, filming on Dead Reckoning didn't officially begin until September 2020. Due to various delays and temporary shutdowns, the shoot was not completed until a year later, on September 10, 2021. The constant delays and temporary shutdowns ended up swelling the budget to $291 million, which is the most expensive MI movie to date and the priciest movie of Tom Cruise's entire career. At 163 minutes, Dead Reckoning is also the longest movie in the entire franchise. As confirmed via McQuarrie's Instagram in September 2020, the digital cameras used to film Dead Reckoning were Sony Cinealta Venice models. That same month, the action-packed rooftop train sequence involving Hunt and Gabriel was filmed in Roma and Stranda, Norway. Although permission was given to resume filming in Italy, by October 26th of that year, production had to be temporarily shut down when the aforementioned 12 crew members tested positive. 1 week later, filming recommenced. By December 2020, Tom Cruise had taken an authoritative role on set regarding COVID-19 rules and regulations. In a leaked audio recording from a London set, Cruise was caught verbally berating 2 crew members for failing to adhere to policies. When the recording of Cruise lambasting crew members for not standing far enough away went public, many mocked Cruise for resembling his character from Tropic Thunder, Les Grossman, a Hollywood power producer with a short temper. Others within the film industry supported the outburst, including George Clooney, for taking the pandemic mandate responsibly and doing his best to prevent the spread of the virus on set and avoid further delays. Still, as a result of the profanity-laced tirade, at least 5 crew members quit their positions, adding to an already problematic production that would only get worse before rounding the corner toward critical and commercial success. Speaking of the decision to film digitally, McQuarrie expressed early plans to open the film with a prologue dating back to 1989. The idea was to use the trendy de-aging tech to make Cruise appear younger, but in the end, the director found the gimmick too distracting. Additionally, McQuarrie recently revealed that the flashbacks in the film were also slated to feature a de-aged Julia Roberts to go with the planned cold open in '89. Roberts, as it turns out, would have played one of Hunt's former girlfriends who Gabriel murders. Per McQuarrie, I said, okay, if I were doing this sequence, it would be Tom in, say, 1989. It would be Tony Scott's Mission Impossible. That's who would have been directing the movie before Brian De Palma, in that era. We looked at Days of Thunder and we looked at the style of it, and we started thinking, what would it look like if Tony Scott had shot this? And who would it have been? I looked back at who was the ingenue, who was the breakout star in 1989, and right around then was Mystic Pizza. And I was like, oh my god, Julia Roberts, a then Pretty Woman Julia Roberts as this young woman. In the end, McQuarrie found the idea too costly and too diversionary to even realize, adding that wouldn't make sense if you were shooting an '89 mission like a 2023 mission. Speaking of the beginning of the movie, the magic trick performed by Ethan when he first greets Grace at the airport was performed for real without any visual effects. The trick involves Ethan attempting to fool Grace by using 2 halves of a key. Following several failed takes to get the trick right, in the end, it was achieved in camera without a stitch of CG augmentation. Part of the reason the MI series feels so visceral is the tactile use of practical effects whenever possible, and limiting the artifice of CGI at all costs. Not for nothing, but when McQuarrie mentions Days of Thunder, it's hard not to think of Cary Elway's presence in Dead Reckoning as the character Denlinger, the actor who famously played Cole Trickle's rival-turned-ally Russ Wheeler in Days of Thunder. Despite ditching the de-aging tech, the vestigial link to Tony Scott persists. On April 20th, 2021, production was granted access to film at the North Yorkshire Moors Railway in North Yorkshire for a sequence relating to the harrowing bridge explosion on a railway. The sequence entailed a train traveling at 60 miles an hour across the Swiss Alps through the bridge before blowing up. McQuarrie found inspiration from Buster Keaton's 1926 silent film, The General. However, the stunt drew international controversy way back in 2019 when the Swiss government denied access for production to use explosives on the bridge. This further delayed production and forced the scouting department to look for alternative bridges in Europe to film the scene. The Polish State Railway suggested utilizing the 1908 railway bridge over Lake Pilchowicki, a historical track that survived the horrors of World War II and remained functional from 1912 to 2016. Over the next several months, public protesting and international outcry led to further production delays. Part of the confusion derived from a misstated commission report that suggested the bridge would be better off being destroyed rather than renovated. However, this drew the ire of activists, preservation groups, and NGOs that launched a public petition against damaging the bridge to retain its historical value. A standoff ensued, with McQuarrie claiming that to open up the area to tourism, the bridge needed to go, later adding there was no disrespect intended. Although production only intended to destroy a small portion of the bridge, the backlash became too loud to ignore. Exner filed a lawsuit against Paramount for a breach of contract when the studio denied financial culpability to fix the damages on the bridge. As a result, McQuarrie scrapped plans to film at the lake. In the end, the sequence ended up being far costlier because the crew had to build a set from scratch in Peak District National Park in Stony Middleton, England. A quarry in the park was used for the scene in which the train's steam engine is destroyed. Moreover, a full-size Mock Britannia-class locomotive had to be constructed and ultimately destroyed in the wreckage filmed for the movie. Filming also took place at a terminal under construction in the Abu Dhabi airport, while the shops inside the airport were filmed at Grand Central and the Bull Ring in Birmingham, England. Meanwhile, the breathless 20-minute car chase scene in the film was shot in Rome. As for the eye-popping stunt in which Ethan jumps his motorcycle off a cliff before parachuting to safety, it was the most complex stunt to achieve. The sequence was filmed at Buttermere Valley in the Lake District in England, with the fells of High Crag and Robinson used as launching points and Lake Buttermere as the landing shore. Tom Cruise spent 1 year preparing for this stunt, with preparation entailing performing more than 500 skydiving sessions as a way to learn how to control his body in the air while freefalling. Cruise also rehearsed the motorcycle jump off a makeshift ramp more than 1,300 times to perfect his timing and accuracy. In the end, the only piece of CGI used in the final version of that sequence was used to digitally erase the ramp Ethan launches from. Other than that, 100% authentic. To prepare for her role as the silent assassin Paris, actress Pom Klementieff patterned her physical performance after a shoebill stork, which she found had a subtle yet threatening demeanor. Not only did Cruise gift the actress with a skydiving session after filming wrapped, the actress was such a gymnastic dynamo on set that she earned the nickname Pom Cruise. Even before she was cast, the actress trained with martial artist Jessa Noviello, who happens to be a 3-time world karate champ. At one point in the movie, Paris chases a yellow Fiat 500 in an armored truck. Many believe the yellow Fiat to be a direct reference to the popular manga Lupin 3. In the 6th chapter of Lupin 3, the manga famously parodied the classic Mission Impossible TV series, leading many to believe the inclusion of the Fiat 500 was a reciprocated homage. However, when asked about it on Twitter, McQuarrie admitted he had never seen Lupin 3, and the reference is simply a cool coincidence. Haley Atwell, who plays Grace in the movie, prepared for her suspenseful driving scenes by rehearsing with stunt driver Wade Eastwood for several weeks. Eastwood has worked with Cruise several times before on such movies as Edge of Tomorrow, Rogue Nation, and Jack Reacher Never Go Back. In spite of its vast production hiccups, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning became an instant hit, when it was released theatrically on July 12, 2023. The film has already earned more than $448 million in global ticket sales and is now in the black despite its hefty $291 million price tag. The film also drew critical plaudits and currently holds an 8 IMDb score to go with a nearly equal 81 Metascore, indicating that both critics and general moviegoers enjoy the movie immensely. Even better, the film holds a 96% certified fresh Rotten Tomatoes score to go with a 94% audience rating. Yet, for as predictable as Dead Reckoning's early success was in terms of finances and bar-raising stunts, no one involved with the movie could have prepared for what happened to the film in its second week. Yep, Dead Reckoning got absolutely Barbenheimer, dropping a staggering 64.3% in ticket sales and being culturally overshadowed by the dual release of Barbie and Oppenheimer. That marks the biggest box office decline for an MI movie in its second week of release since John Woo's much-aligned MI 2, which dropped 53.3%. Unlike Woo's film, it's extremely rare for a movie so beloved by critics and general audiences to suffer such a decline in 1 week. But the current zeitgeist simply nudged Dead Reckoning out of the way to make way for the runaway success of Greta Gerwig and Christopher Nolan's latest cinematic events. Cruise was allegedly pretty pissed and was heard complaining loudly to Paramount executives over Dead Reckoning losing so many IMAX theaters to Oppenheimer in its second week. Perhaps Dead Reckoning Part 2 will have more lasting power when it hits the masses on June 28, 2024. While more info is sure to come to light in the coming months, that's essentially what happened to Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. The film suffered severe production delays due to COVID-19, which in turn dramatically increased the budget to nearly $300 million. The breach of COVID-19 mandates also led to crew members quitting their posts, and as well as the temporary dismissal of Angela Bassett and the replacement of Nicholas Hoult for Isai Morales. The film also mired in international controversy relating to the use of a historic Polish bridge that resulted in the filmmakers being sued by a producer. And yet, despite the painstaking efforts that went into making the movie a success, Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie proved once more why they have such a potent partnership. Hopefully, Cruise and McQuarrie keep the Mission Impossible franchise alive and well far beyond Dead Reckoning Part 2.